So now that we've talked about how the idea of what we're looking for in a multiple comparison test, now we're actually going to do it for our example. So first you'll notice I gave some output here, but I also want to demonstrate how we got this output in StatCrunch. So going back to our StatCrunch with our weight loss data, and we got our original output for just the hypothesis test. You'll notice the confidence intervals are not already there. They're an extra option that I need to click down here, where it says Compute Tukey HSD. So if I click that little box, it's now going to give me those confidence intervals. We've also got to tell it its confidence level. We discussed that since for our example, we're going to be using 0.05 for our significance level, because that's what we used when we did the hypothesis test. That means that we are going to use then a 95% confidence level. And you'll notice that that's the default here in StatCrunch, so I don't need to change that. So now when I hit compute, I get the same information that I had before, but now I have this extra information down here. Now there's more information given here than what I've provided for you, but I'm often only going to provide you with what you see in your handout. So I'm going to talk through it from that perspective. The first thing now to actually look at from it is to understand the order of subtraction that it's doing. So you'll notice here at the top that it says nothing subtracted from. Now what that means is that nothing's being subtracted off of the other ones. So when I see nothing subtracted from exercise, what that really then is telling me is that the order of subtraction is exercise minus nothing. Now when I see nothing subtracted from diet, that one then is now telling me that my order of subtraction is going to be diet minus nothing. Finally, down here in the other box, we see that it says exercise subtracted from diet. That's going to mean my order of subtraction then is diet minus exercise. Or so the pattern is it's always the one down here minus the one above the table. The one down here minus the one above the table. The order of subtraction will be very important to us when we're trying to figure out which one is bigger and why. Now what we're looking for in each of the confidence intervals is whether or not it contains 0. So if I look at this first one from 5.14 to 8.75, that's an entirely positive interval. So that one's all positive. So that one does not contain 0, so there is a significant difference. Now, how would I get all positive numbers? Well, if this is my order of subtraction, to get a positive number, the first value has to be bigger than the second. So exercise then is going to be greater than doing nothing. Something else to keep in mind in case you're worried about getting that order of subtraction backwards and maybe coming to the wrong conclusion is your data can never contradict your decision here. So if I were to go back and look at my data, the average weight loss for exercise was almost 7 pounds, where it was only 0 pounds for those that did nothing. So there is no way that I'd be able to say that you lose more weight by doing nothing than by exercising, because that would completely be contradicted by the data I used to come to that conclusion. So you can always go back and look at these means to make sure you're not saying something that's in disagreement with what you see there. Now if I look at my next one of the diet minus nothing, this time I get positive 1.01 to positive 4.62. So again, since both of the numbers are positive, it does not contain 0. And just as with the one above it here, in order to be a positive number, the first value would have to be bigger than the second when we do that order of subtraction. So that will tell me then that diet is greater than doing nothing. Finally, for my third confidence interval here of comparing the diet and exercise, this time we got a negative 5.94 to negative 2.32. So here they're both negative, so again it does not contain 0. So these are also going to have a significant difference. But now this time, since it's negative, the second value has to be bigger than the first in order to get a negative value. So this is going to tell me then that exercise is greater than diet, which again, my data confirms. On average, we lost more weight by exercising than by dieting. Now that we have those directions, and so we know which ones are bigger, let's actually go through and interpret these. So now I know that exercise is greater than nothing, dieting is greater than nothing, and exercising is greater than dieting. These numbers are also useful for me, though, because they tell me how much more weight I lose with one than the other. So let's actually interpret all three confidence intervals together. So we are going to say that we are 95% confident that the population mean weight loss for those in the, and I'm just going to start the interpretation this way to make it a little bit easier here for us, that those in the, I'm going to do the first one, in our exercise group is between, now we know it's going to be more than the nothing group, but it's between 5.14 and our 8.75 pounds more than those in the nothing group. So that would be the interpretation of that first confidence interval that we see here. So again, since it was all positive, we knew you lost more weight by exercising than by doing nothing, and then the numbers tell us how much more weight we lost by the one than the other. Now if I move to my next interval, I can be 95% confident that the population mean weight loss for those in the diet group is between, this time, 1.01 and 4.62 pounds more than those in the nothing group. Finally, our third interval, this time though it was all negative, but all the negative told me was that you lost more weight by exercising than by dieting. So now that I've taken into account what negative means, I can really pretend that these numbers are positive, and that's how I'm going to want to interpret them. So I'm going to be 95% confident that our population mean weight loss for those in the exercise group is between, I'm going to put them in kind of the smaller order, so 2.32 and 5.94. So again, just getting those numbers without the negatives, because I'm going to use the negative here in a moment. Pounds more than those in the diet group. So in our example here, all three of the intervals did not contain 0. So all three of them showed a difference. There might be a time though when we have a confidence interval that actually contains 0. If it were to contain 0, there's no significant difference, so I would not interpret that difference. We will get to see that in the next example.